Hello and welcome to 100 Yards of Football Sports Talk Radio. I'm your producer, Jeremiah Long, and joining me to talk about the man of the hour himself, Stetson Bennett, with our expert host, a man who knows the history of football so well that he can tell you not only why Stetson Bennett's the man of the hour, but how it came to be. So without further ado, the other man of the hour himself here on a Monday morning at 9 a.m. on December the 19th when we're filming. It's Mr. Vincent Turner. How's it going, bro?
Hey, I appreciate the outstanding introduction. It's always a blessing. We got Christmas coming up on Sunday. I'm going back to my hometown, the 901 Memphis, Tennessee. Going to be glad to see a lot of my people. I couldn't be more blessed. And I'm very honored today to talk about this young man, the quarterback at the University of Georgia.
Absolutely. And I think us broadcasting live from Atlanta, Georgia, here in the great state of Georgia, of course, we definitely know what the Georgia Bulldogs are all about. We know what Stetson Bennett's all about, but there's another angle to this that I think you can bring up, Mr. Vincent Turner, and we'd love to hear about it. So without further ado, tell us what all happened this season that makes Stetson Bennett the best walk-on football player in the history of college football?
Well, I'm going to tell you this right here, and I'm going to be honest about this here on the platform and here at 100 Yards Football. Stetson Bennett has exceeded every expectation and every, scenario that I ever thought of. I'm going to be honest. I wasn't a component of him being the starting quarterback at the University of Georgia. And I didn't think Georgia could win at a high level with him under the center. But his story is so fascinating. It's unbelievable. Because, see, back in my day, back in 1978 to 1982, I tried to walk on at a Power 5 school at the University of Arkansas. So I know how to walk on is treated. I know how to walk on doesn't get a lot of reps in practice. But what's so amazing about this young man's story is that he came to Georgia as a walk-on, had to leave, went to a junior college, then came back as a third-string quarterback. It is one of the most incredible stories. This is what we say a movie needs to be made. And the thing about this young man, he has performed at a level at every opportunity in every big game. See, the thing I look at a college football player, especially at the quarterback position, when on any level, you're not going to win if your quarterback is not making plays. It just don't happen in today's game. And one thing about Stetson Bennett, that not only he came under a lot of criticism, including from me. I was a JT Daniels proponent. There was no way a former five-star quarterback that had played at USC should not be sitting. But Kirby Smart and Tom Monken saw something that I didn't see, or a lot of people around the Georgia program. And this young man has performed at a high level at every opportunity. I'll go back to the Michigan game. I'm waiting for him to have a slip up, 313 yards in that football game, 2 touchdowns. I'm waiting against him in the national championship game last year against Alabama, 224 yards, 2 touchdowns, made some key plays in the fourth quarter. Then I said this year to Oregon, there's no way with him under center because Georgia had that outstanding defense. Trayvon Walker, Devontae Wyatt, Jordan Davis, Lewis Sin, N'Kobe Dean, Quay Walker. I said there's no way that Georgia's going to come into the season and repeat. He opened up against Oregon, 368 yards, 2 touchdowns. Then in the biggest game of the year against Tennessee, I didn't even fathom that he could outperform Hendon Hooker. 257 yards, 2 touchdowns. And then in the SEC championship game, 274 yards and 4 touchdowns. Big-time players playing big-time games. And then on the year, 3,425 yards, 20 touchdowns, and being invited to the Heisman. To be honest about it, I'm not going to even really stay away from this. But if we was basing the Heisman on the best player in the country and on the best team and playing in the best big games of this season, Stetson Bennett should win the Heisman Trophy. I can't even believe I'm saying that, but I got to tell it like it is to the Georgia Bulldogs nation. Then I look at this real history tidbit. You think about all the quarterbacks that's won back-to-back national championships in the history of college football. Jerry Taggy in Nebraska, 70-71. Tommy Frazier, 1994-1995. And Matt Leinart at USC, 2003-2004. It's only 3 quarterbacks that's won back-to-back national championships. And that young man has got an outstanding opportunity to make it happen in the college football postseason. Think about that. It's only been 3 quarterbacks. And this young man has got a great opportunity to be number 4. Then you think about all the great quarterbacks at the University of Georgia. See, I got a great friend of mine. I moved here in the Atlanta metro area in 1996. I became friends with a lot of great people, but I became a friend of this gentleman 11 years ago. His name is Joseph Taylor, graduate of North Springs High School, Georgia State University. He loves the Bulldogs. And me and him go at it every time we talk. We haven't talked in 2 weeks, but right now, he said it's going to be some very depressed people when Georgia wins it again. And you know what? He might be right. And I might be on that list because this young man is just answered the bell at every opportunity. And I never in my life seen a quarterback at any school come under much scrutiny. Remember, I listened to everything out there. And this young man left Georgia, came back, was 3rd string, and look at his career now. This is what I say, he must be God's child. Then think about this. You look at all the great college quarterbacks, and I'm going to go back to Georgia because I'm going to say this before I leave this point. Fran Tarkenton played at that school. Kirby Moore played at that school. Eric Zaire played at that school. Aaron Murray, and the gentleman that won a national championship, who was considered the king for almost 40 years, Buck Bellew. But all of them were kind of highly acclaimed. Mr. Tarkenton, highly recruited. Mr. Bellew, highly recruited. Mr. Murray, highly recruited. Mr. Zaire, highly recruited. But this gentleman came out of nowhere, a walk-on at a major university. All lights on you. The college football world is Keith Jackson is depending on you, and eyes on this young man right here. And he has answered the bell. But what's so fascinating to his story, see, I'm a Southern boy. Grew up in Memphis, Tennessee, and saw a lot of great football players up close and personal. From Eldridge Dickey in 1966 to Joe Gilliam in 1970. Saw Archie Manning as a 9-year-old over there in Liberty Bowl Memorial State. I remember he broke my heart in 1968. Then his sons, Peyton and Eli. Peyton playing at Tennessee. Eli playing at Ole Miss. Pat Sullivan winning the Heisman Trophy with Auburn in 1971. Reggie Collier at Southern Miss, who I think was one of the best that ever done it. Pat Hayden at USC winning national championships. Jim Plunkett beating Ohio State in the bowl game. John Elway considered one of the greatest college quarterbacks ever. Then the machine out there, BYU, Steve Young, Jim McMahon, Mark Wilson, Ty Detmer, Andre Ware at Houston, O.J. Simpson, USC, Barry Sanders, Oklahoma State, Vince Young, Texas, Matt Leinart at SC winning back-to-back. And this gentleman right here, along with Tony Dorsett, Billy Sims, Boomer Sooner, Dorsett, Pittsburgh. out of all those college football players, and of course, the great Jim Brown at Syracuse. When you look at the history of them being in college football at their respective universities, they was put up on a pedestal, man. But this gentleman right here, when it's all said and done, he might be in the top 10 because he got a chance to win back-to-back national championships. That is hard to do, man. And coming into this season, if you would have asked anybody on a national level, could Georgia win it with him again? I guarantee you maybe 20% would have said, I believe so. I still did not believe it. I still cannot sit up here and believe the history of this young man. And Georgia lost so much on defense. But to me, right now, the Bulldogs are better at this stage than they were last year. And it's because of this young man, Mr. Stetson Bennett. And he should have been invited to the Heisman, and he should have won the Heisman Trophy, in my opinion. This ain't no black and white thing. It goes to the best player on the best college football team. And the reason I say that, I know Caleb Williams had a great season. I know that he brought USC out of the dumps. But remember what Caleb Williams said when he was up there on the stands accepting the trophy. Yeah, I got the Heisman. But Mr. Bennett, along with Mr. Duggan, along with Mr. Stroud, y'all in the playoffs playing for the ultimate prize. That's to be number one. And this young man has got a chance, in my opinion, to go down as one of the best quarterbacks in college football. I'm sorry. 1972 Ohio players. Stetson Bennett, ever since he been under the center at Georgia, he been on fire. Don't, fire. His story is unbelievable, man. A movie to be made. I got a lot of history books in my room up here and upstairs in my home here in Douglasville, Georgia. And I pulled out a college football All-American book. And it had all the great college All-American quarterbacks of the past. Had Archie Manning, had his two sons, Peyton and Eli. They had Jim Plunkett and John Elway. They had Charlie Ward at Florida State. And they had the BYU connection of Steve Young, Jim McMahon, Ty Detmer. But the one thing out of that group, only one person won the national championship. That was Charlie Ward. But I'm going to say it again. They go back to back. And of course, I don't want to leave out, I believe Mr. A.J. McCarron at the University of Alabama won back to back with the Tide. You have four quarterbacks in the history of this great game that's won back-to-back national championships. Stetson Bennett has got something to do. It's got something to prove and maybe end up being the fifth guy to do it. That's special, man. That's something you don't forget. That's something you never go to bed being a college football fan. And you know what? At the start of the season, I said this young man had no way of being drafted in the 2023 NFL draft. But you know what? If he win a national championship, I think he can play at the next level, man. And I think he'll end up being a mid-round draft pick, maybe fourth or fifth round. And I would draft him on this premise. Look where the man come from. Look what the man did. Look at the man. He took his time. He waited. He sat behind a five-star J.T. Daniels. He sat behind Jack Fromm, another five-star. Right now they got Brock Vandagriff, Gunnar Stockton, Carson Beck, all 4 and 5 stars. He's ahead of them. And this young man is a walk-on football player. That's in the greats. When you talk about college football players, pound for pound, I got to put them on my list. That's right, 100 yards football. Pound for pound on this college level, Jerry Rice, Walter Payton, O.J. Simpson, Dorsett. Hey, man, and it's make no bones. I don't want to offend nobody at the University of Georgia, but if he win this national championship, he will, in my book, go down as the greatest quarterback in Georgia football history, and maybe one of the top 2 in SEC history. This young man has done this thing at Georgia, brother. I want to say I apologize to the Bennett family. I apologize to you, Stetson Bennett. You're a very, very special football player. And I don't want to hear about he got all his talent around. No question about it. Georgia is the most talented team left in the college football playoffs. But let me tell you something. You still need a championship level quarterback to make it happen. And this young man, in 2 seasons, has got an opportunity to win back-to-back. And modern day football, I never dreamed of that ever happening. Not in my 62 years. So my final words, when I talk about Stetson Bennett, you have garnered all my respect, all my honor, all my praises, everything from the family here, 100 yards of football. You are the man. And you got a chance to be one of the greatest that ever done it and winning back-to-back. Final words about Stetson Bennett. 1985. Shout, shout, let it all out. These are the things that we do without. Tears for fears. Stetson Bennett. UGA.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And that is just how we do it. Thank you so much, Mr. Vincent Turner. And for everybody watching our show live, watching on the replay, or listening to our podcast, we want to hear from you. What do you think about Stetson Bennett? Please put it in the comments over on YouTube or over on Facebook. Or if you're listening over to our podcast, first off, thank you. And if you're not listening to our podcast, come and join us. Our podcast is 100 Yards of Football. You can listen to it on Spotify, on Apple Podcast, or anywhere else that you love listening to podcasts, including on Google Podcast if you have an Android device. So come and listen to our podcast. We have over 1,000 episodes. And if you are watching on our video stream, then thank you so much again for joining us on our video stream. But we've also got over 1,000 episodes at this point. So thank you so much, Mr. Vincent Turner, for all the hard work, as well as the rest of the team, including Bobby Butler, including Mr. Logan Landers, the legend himself, who did so many hundreds of episodes with us, and so many more of our amazing guests that come on each week to present the great world of football. Well, I am your producer, Jeremiah Long. Stay with us. We'll be back with another